few instructive endgames played by Aleksandr Alekhine. In first game, he's white against Ricardo Reti, 1922. Well, here, despite white being a pawn up, Reti, knowing his endgames, finds a nice transposition to a drawn pawn endgame. Here, in any kind of a attempt like to keep the rooks on, thinking that you have to avoid the trades being down in material. That's what happened in the game. For instance, rook c4 allows g5, and the connected passers are going to be too much to deal with. Also, there is this check to pick up the f pawn included. So let's say black would have tried to grab the a pawn, some counterplay with his own passed pawn. White can just grab the f pawn. Black does the same to a pawn. Alright, rook behind the passed pawn, always a good practice. Black has to defend it. First, cut the king off to the back rank. Black's plan is simple. He's gonna push the pawn, check, and promote, but it's just too slow. h6, b3, g6, just threatening checkmates. All these squares are covered. So here, either you have to block here, but that's not gonna help you, because king goes here, and then, well, let's say you attack here. We don't immediately take the pawn, and this would be an easy draw, but we give this in between check, forcing the rook to the back rank, and then grab this, for instance. There probably might be some other ways to draw it to, or win it. And the king run doesn't really work because white just threatens. Checkmate on h8 promotions. Rook stops that, but no avail. We promote the other one. Let's go to the beginning and see what Reti did. He grabs the pawn, but you have to be absolutely certain when you do it, because you end up in a pawn endgame that you're a pawn down as black. But key elements are that the white's remaining pawns are flank pawns, and those are very, very drawish in general. So here black can just keep the king under this one, and there is no way to force the king away from the corner with the flank pawns. I mean, you can try, but black's just gonna stay there. And the stalemate tricks are not gonna work. If these pawns were further down the board, like this was already somewhere around here, or maybe even here, this might work, forcing a black to make a move. But here it's just too close. If we take it, it's a stalemate. And the point is trying to push the pawn forward. Black's just too fast in his promotions. Yeah, don't I? But if these pawns were much further down the board, then this kind of stalemate tricks could work, and when we force black to push the pawn, we go here. Well, here and checkmate, hopefully. So white grabs the pawn, black keeps into the corner, and when white does a dash towards the queen side, we just go pick up the pawn. King c4, king f5, king takes, and then we make a mad dash towards the other corner. Here white can stop you from entering the corner, but here it's always a good thing to know you don't actually have to reach the corner. You can reach this square, which is very critical in these flank pawns. Here white can stop you from entering the corner, but then he gets stuck in the corner instead. And if he's stuck there, he's gonna block his own pawns from promotions. Let's show example. Now now either you get locked in the corner, get stalemated yourself, or you let black go there. And then there's no way of forcing him out of there. So this is often a critical square to reach. Of course, if the pawn was already here and we reach it, white could push the pawn to a7 and prevent the king from entering here. It wouldn't be enough, but apart from that case, this is the critical square where we can either we get to the corner or lock white into the corner. So knowing your pawn endgames and noticing the fact that after the trade remaining pawns are flank pawns is a good asset to have. Alright, let's look at the next one. This is from Alekhine, Bokulyubov, 1929. Alright, so white has a very dangerous passed pawn. Black has the same, but it's blockaded with the king and it's further down the board. Here, white to move. Put the rook behind the passed pawn. Alright. Black gives a check and goes to the back rank. And white pushes the pawn forward. Here, black played king g4, freeing his pawn. This rook's gonna sacrifice its life, and then we have to try to promote this one. Let's look how the game went. White played b7. Here, black just pushed f5. It doesn't really make a difference if you do this, because forcing the king a little further up the board, because your rook's now attacked, you have to move it away, and then you lost as much as time as white did by moving the king here. And why that's relevant, the king needs to eventually get chasing the pawn with the rook. But here doesn't really matter if you put that there, because you have to move it away anyways. Oh, black pushed the pawn. White promoted and took with the rook. Rooks, usually it's a lot more beneficial to take with the rook in these kind of situations instead of, for instance, the king, because the rook moves faster after the pawn. King is slow piece. It needs to be, or wants to be, much closer to the action here. Alright, black's only chance, push the f pawn, but white just runs after it. f3, king e4. f2, rook just goes behind it. king g3 and king e3. Now it's attacked twice. Can't push. We go here, we just pick up the pawn and win. So here black resigned. Let's look at the one of the most critical moments here. Here black has a draw. His critical mistake was going to the g4. Instead, the king was supposed to come to e4, where it's blocking the white's king from reaching the pawn. Here it doesn't really make a difference if white pushes or gives, for instance, a check in between here, because then we just push the king further. So let's see. b7. Now black pushes. White promotes. Take, and push f4. Notice now that our king is on this side. There's no entry for the white king. So let's say white would check the black king, force him off this, or try to force him off and give white entry. But black just goes here, hitting the pawn. Removing the king won't help either, because the king is still blockaded from here. Can probably go here or even here and hold a draw. I don't think it makes a difference. There is no way to make progress with this king. But even here, you go nowhere. Here, f3. Again, rook here. You don't really get anywhere because the king is always blocking the king here. It wants to be on the side of the pawn so it can pick it up. Alright, here we can check it from the back. The checks don't do anything. Here, maybe the best try would be little maybe counterintuitive check on from the side. King e3, king d5. This gets a little trickier. Check on the side again, forcing here. And king e4, with the idea that now when we check on b2, king has to go to e1, and then king e3 is the trick. Now if you promote a queen, you get checkmated. So here black has to again know his endgames. And knight, under promotion to a knight with check, critical moment, is enough to draw. Because if this again were much further down the road, it would not be enough. But here, with the king centralized, knight can keep spamming the king with checks. Oh, here instantly forking him. King can escape. Main point to know in these endgames, the rook versus the knight, is to remember to keep the knight as close as possible to the king. And then you have always a lot of checks to keep him occupied. Here again, if you check the king, it's going to escape the back rank. You hit the knight, for instance. Here you have to remember, keep it close. Even though it looks kind of cramped to keep them both on the back rank. For instance, here, your knight already gets too far and gets trapped eventually. I think that here is the fastest way to catch it is rook g6. Knight tries to go to here. Rook g4. And then king e3 hits the knight and threatens mate if the knight moves. I mean, let's say you could go knight d2, but then you're gonna get checked. You can still block, but now, oh, king f3. And you have to yield and then lose the knight. So here, the critical moment, the knight, the rook endgames, is to keep them closed. Keep them close, unless there is a direct reason to somehow separate them sometimes, but in 99 times out of 100, they want to be close as possible. There are some exceptions where the knight's on the flank or in the corner and can't hold anymore in general. The beginning position, you could think that white could try checking on f1, kind of forcing the black king to this side of the pawn instead of letting it to here where it body blocks our king away, and then bring your rook under the pawn. But the problem here is that you did just unleash the pawn too, so it's now ready already to run, whereas in the beginning it was blockaded by the king. Now you push, black throws the rook to the back. Now it takes you a while to go kick the rook off there, and meanwhile black just got too far. Now your king is on the wrong side of the pawn, but white king is hopelessly too late catching it. And the draw. So, few nice little tidbits that you always have to have that basic knowledge of the basic endgames, where you can know where to transpose. Well, here you have to kind of, everything is basically forced, but black has to sacrifice the rook. He doesn't really have many options for the pawn, but here the critical moment was the picking that side for their king. Here it's much more useful, blocking the white king from catching his pawn. Anyways, until next time.